How do you know, Max, that there is a floor underneath your bed every time you wake up in the morning and get out of bed?
That's a very tricky question. Can you repeat that again, please?
Okay,
My
I know.
mind went
I
blank.
wasn't.
Then.
I know. I deliberately did that, and that's another
I
thing
was
too.
not
That's
familiar with the term. But
that's a pattern interruption from
how do
way
you
back.
know there's a floor under your
Exactly.
bed?
So, in other words, let me reframe it.
Okay.
When you get out of bed every morning,
Mhm.
you don't think to yourself, oh, I better check to see if there's a flaw before I step out of bed.
Right. Okay.
You know there's a flaw.
100%.
Is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
Now, when you get on the floor and you put one foot on the floor and then the next foot, do you ask yourself, which foot am I going to start walking with? Do you ask yourself that question? Absolutely.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
I never thought about that.
I mean, you don't even do it when you jump in a car, right? I mean, once upon a time when you learnt to drive, I remember my father taught me how to drive when I was 17 years old.
Yeah.
And I can remember, thinking to myself with a manual, oh, my goodness, you've got to put your foot on the clutch. Then you've got to move the gears.
Yep.
Then you've got to hold the steering wheel all at the same time. And, oh, my gosh, you've got to indicate and not to mention look out for other cars. But then all of a sudden you become a consciously competent driver.
Yep.
And you no longer even think about driving while you're driving. In fact, I don't know about you, but sometimes I can get to the destination without even remembering what gear I was in or what I did on the way there, because that becomes autopilot.
Right. Okay.
So if I asked you the question now, so if that's the case, what I've said, you don't have to think about which foot you walk on. You don't have to wonder about whether there's a flaw.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Edge Radio.
It's Edge Radio Australia, and we are on the air with Max. How you doing, Mad Max from Mexico?
Hi, Terry. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure for me being here.
Sorry about the delay, folks. We've got a bit of technical issues here. However, we're going to get straight into the show. And I do have to say, this gentleman, has come all the way from down the road, and he is responsible for the e-bike I ride on just about every day. So I just want to say thank you for that, Max. It's been an absolute life changer for me.
Oh, well, I'm glad you like it. It's been a pleasure having you as a customer, and taking the bike out, you're seeking freedom. You exercise and you enjoy the great outdoors. We're having a beautiful weather this week, so by all means, ride it for as much as you want.
Yeah, we're definitely having good weather, but we're going to talk about breaking the cycle of bad habits, and it was something that I did speak to you about. Now, you're one of these guys that works hard and plays hard, so when you're coming home from work, you talked about something that you do that obviously helps you unwind. And do you consider that a good habit or a bad habit?
Well, to me, it's a wonderful habit because with being and running a business, being under constant pressure for me is, taking care of overdue invoices, phone calls, emails, corporate meetings. everything gets piled up and it creates a lot of stress, and it takes a lot out of me. So when I come home, I like to open a bottle,
A
whatever.
bottle of water, a bottle of Coke?
I
What
like
is
to
it?
open a bottle, either a bottle of wine, a bottle of whiskey, a bottle of gin, a bottle of
bottle
beer,
of whiskey.
or whatever
Okay.
that is. So I
Okay.
just need to have some alcohols because I really need to switch off. Doing business, it takes so much out of me.
Yes.
It creates a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So I just need to have a drink after I finish work.
That's fair enough. Do you know the reason that human beings do stuff like that?
It's well, it creates an endorphin, I think, and it helps them to relax and calm down.
Yeah, true.
And it also, that is creating a bad habit, and it, increases over time.
Okay, so from the NLP world, you're right, actually. Anything that we perceive makes us feel good does create that dopamine, that endorphin, that kind of hit that we're looking for. In the world of NLP, we call it changing state. Right. See, it's impossible for us to stay in the same state for longer than around about, I think it's like 1 or 2 minutes. So we are constantly moving in and out of state. So if you're working all day, as you do when you work hard, and obviously there's challenges and things that come up, the first thing people want to do is, come home and unwind. And I'm not saying everybody's going to open a bottle. It could be that people go to the cupboard and pull out food, and then they start, and that they look at it in a way that is, well, I deserve this. This is my time now. And that's the perception that I really want to talk about today, because it's also a perception that doesn't always match our dreams and desires. So I've got a question for you. Are you ready?
Shoot.
Okay, where's my gun? Okay, so would you say if you drank a bottle of whiskey every day, you would become the person that you truly want to be in your future dreams? Not to say that you do, but let's just say that was the case. Would you be able to really fully achieve the person of your dreams having done that?
No.
Right. So this is the interesting connection. See, your brain doesn't know that.
My brain doesn't know that. Yes.
Your
correct.
brain thinks that it's actually giving itself that ability to unwind and unpack and do all
Not
those
that I drink
things.
a whole bottle of whiskey, but I like to have at least 3 glasses a night. But when it comes to the habit, my brain doesn't tell me that.
Sure, because you've got 2 parts of your brain, right, Max?
Right.
You've got the subconscious brain, and the subconscious brain is the part that is saying you deserve to have a drink. You've been working hard all day, or it could be you deserve to have something to eat and fill your stomach up with all the good stuff. So we are constantly turning to things that we perceive are going to change our state because we actually think we deserve it. But, the language of NLP can be very blunt sometimes. And I find myself saying to people, so do you really think you deserve to be obese and unhealthy and get the diseases that go with? But that's not the way their subconscious mind was actually interpreting it. And it's the same as when you drink. You're not thinking that all the damage it would do to your kidneys and your liver and what it would do to your brain. You're thinking in terms of what? What are you thinking when you have a drink?
Well, I'm thinking of technically, I deserve this for now.
Yes.
It helps me unwind. I'm sure other people has different habits, but me having a glass of wine or maybe 2, I think that my brain deserves this as a form of a treat.
Yes. And that's the question that I'd like to throw out there to our listeners. And that is that when you're doing something that is, considered a bad habit, would you say it is a bad habit, by the way?
Not at that moment. At that
Not
moment,
at that moment, but now. Objectively,
it is a bad habit. Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, so you say
Mm.
right now, you know, when you're away from it, you can objectively see it's a bad habit, but then you tell yourself a different story when you're about to indulge.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah,
so what's the
100%.
story you tell yourself just as you're about to indulge?
Well, when I come home, I just want to say, I'm so tired. I've had enough of this world, and I think I need a drink. I need to unwind. I think I deserve this.
Okay, so that's the big thing that
Yes.
you're dealing with.
Mm.
So the question is that while you're saying, I think I need to unwind, I need a drink, or I need a smoke, or I need that extra bit of food, I deserve this. Think about this. Do you really deserve to have all of the consequences that go with? Because that's the part that the subconscious doesn't process. But you've actually given me some really great questions, and you've done it from a position that you probably don't know as much as a person who's done an NLP training course about what NLP is, what hypnosis is, and how it can change. So you've given me these amazing questions.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to bring them up. Do you actually want to read it out?
Sure.
Can you see that?
Yep.
So it starts off, I'm wondering if everybody else is going to want to hear these questions too.
Okay. So I'll ask you this question for you, Terry. For some people hearing about NLP for the first time, what actually is it?
What is NLP? Well, firstly, it's important to know what it stands for. So it stands for neuro linguistic programming. So neuro is obviously the brain and the neuro pathways of the brain. Logical is logic. And programming is the way that we have been programmed since birth. So, whatever you have told yourself and what you're telling yourself and the way you speak to yourself is really what's manifesting your life. So, with neuro linguistic programming, we look at it so that we can reprogram.
Okay.
Does that kind of help?
Yes, it does. It does help. I have another question for you.
Yes, I'll bring it up here too on the screen so everyone can read it as well. And if you're interested in it, please drop your comments if you've got any questions so that we can pick them up and answer them later as well.
Okay, Terry, so we got here, can anyone be hypnotized? And what happens in a typical hypnotherapy session?
So that is a really classic question. And the fact is, everybody is already hypnotized.
Oh.
So while people think that hypnotists or hypnotherapists respectfully are going to put people to sleep, that is not the case, because in actual fact, we wake people up, because all the habits that you've created. So for example, what we've talked about with drinking, and if it's food or if it's cigarettes, or the way that we choose our relationships and we sabotage ourselves, that is a pattern that has been programmed. So really what hypnotherapy is, it's about looking at what is being set up and how that's not working for the person, and being able to make change. But in order to make change, the answer to your question is, can everybody go to sleep? Well, if I was the kind of hypnotherapist that needed to put people to sleep, I would say no. Not everybody can be hypnotized. The fact is that, can everyone reprogram their brain? Yes.
All right.
And so that's where neuro-linguistic programming comes into.
You caught me yawning last time when I went to the workshop.
Yes.
And everybody was in the zone, and I just couldn't stop yawning because I was accepting the program, and I had to apologize in advance. And I said to you, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm just yawning because I was basically I was getting into the zone of develop and help reprogram my brain." But yeah, I guess it's it does work. I feel that it needs more training because the brain needs to be trained.
Oh, always. I mean, my brain needs more training. I think we all are on that, pathway to upgrading. Just on that note, though, I'm quite used to people yawning
Okay.
throughout my sessions.
I feel bad because I
yeah.
didn't want you to have the wrong impression by saying, "Oh, this is boring." But no, it actually was I was in a calm, relaxed state that I was receiving information, and the session went it went great. So I think that was working.
Well, that is hypnosis, and that's hypnosis without you being asleep, because the reality of it is, getting back to your question, is that you've got to get past the judgment part of the brain. So when you can move, it's called bypassing the consciousness of it. So when you're sitting there, you might be going, oh, look at her hair today, or you might take notice of the way that a person's dressed or the way they're talking. So when you can get a person to the level of they're not judging anymore, their judgment has closed down, and now they are processing. So it's all about themselves. So it's coming back to them. That is true professional hypnosis. Okay. So does that make sense?
Very.
It does? Okay. So I'm going to go to your next question, because I thought these questions were absolutely amazing. And do you want to read out your next question?
Yes. So we've got here, why do people stay stuck in bad habits even when they want to change?
Okay, that's and that connects with everything else. So on one side of quite often I'll do the parts integration. Mm-hmm. So on one hand, a person wants to change. They want to perhaps get their body into shape. They want to stop drinking, or they want to start controlling the way they drink. They want to start controlling the way they eat. They want to take control of their lives so they can be better. But then on the other hand, that part of the brain we're talking about, which is the subconscious, is going, talk to the hand, because that's the part that's been programmed. So until you can literally bypass your logic, because that logic that says, yes, I'm going to be better off if I do stop drinking, or if I stop smoking, or if I stop doing the things that I'm doing, you still have to really, what I do as a clinical hypnotherapist is I advocate for the subconscious. So rather than going against the subconscious in a way of, oh, it's really bad, you shouldn't drink every day, that's really bad for you, or you shouldn't smoke because smoking is bad for your lungs, that is going to create an instant barrier between you and I, because the subconscious mind is going to go, I'm not going to listen to you. But on the other hand, if I turn around and go, you know what, I really get the reason that you would be drinking, because I think it's a really good way to kind of unwind. That's a really good strategy. But what if I was to tell you that there could be an even better strategy? You see, you kind
that
of
works.
You see how you're dealing with that resilience?
Yes, it does.
And, so the reason that people stay stuck is because they're trying to operate out of their own self-discipline, and really none of us are that self-disciplined.
And it creates some kind of resentment. For some people, they say, oh, I hate the way that you smoking, it's bad for you. For the other person that's receiving this message is resenting it. It's kind of like stepping back. It creates barriers, as you mentioned.
Yeah. And it's the same with parents and their teenagers. So if you've got a teenager and they're involved in something that is not good, the first thing that's going to happen the moment that you tell that teenager, you shouldn't be doing this and you shouldn't be doing that, is that wall's going to come up, and they're going to find a way to get around it. But the whole idea is to be able to speak to them from where they're coming from, what they're trying to achieve out of it. And look at, so for example, let's go back to the drinking. So you said that you are busy all day, you've had a hard day at work. You come home and you want to unravel. You want to unwind. You want to let go. What does that feel like?
Well, that's it's an interesting question. It feels great.
What does great feel like? Can you
It feels
describe
great.
great?
It feels great because it feels in a way that I can relax and just being normal rather than stressed out and carrying a lot of burden in you.
Okay, so the magic bullet right there is that you want to feel normal and not carrying all the stress. Now, I wonder, see, I would ask you, and obviously this is not a full-blown session.
I'm not an alcoholic, however, but I've got that.
That's okay. We're not, I don't label people. Look, to be quite honest with you, the one thing that I really hate is when I'm dealing with people who tell me that they are an alcoholic,
Right.
and they belong to a group of people. I'm not going to mention the name. And so they don't drink anymore, but they still say they're an alcoholic. I hate that.
Right.
Because what they're saying is that you're always going to be that way. It's a bit like anorexia nervosa, and I'm quite accustomed to that disease. When a person gets so thin and stops eating and practically dies. And I mean, you heard maybe the Carpenters, and that woman, one of the singers, actually passed away of anorexia nervosa. It's actually not about the food. It's more about what that person perceived they were going to get. And so I don't believe that that person is stuck with that disease for the rest of their life. What I believe is that our brain can reprogram. However, the catch-22, the missing piece, if you like, is that in order for them to be able to let go, so for you, for example, getting back to the alcohol, to get rid of the stress, to get rid of that feeling that you want to let go of when you're coming home from work, right? The fact is, it's a trigger. And that trigger is built on many other triggers that really determine how your day is going to go, because you might have a customer that comes in, and that customer might be a perfectly good customer, but they do something that reminds you of a customer that might have really burnt your books or really fouled things up for you. So your subconscious mind is on the lookout for that. So it's called accumulation of stress. So when you can go back and release the stress of some of the worst experiences you've ever had, not so you can forget those experiences, Max, but so that every day is a new day. You're not building and accumulating today's or tomorrow's stress based on yesterday's. Does that make sense?
It does, yes.
Yeah. And as far as the alcohol is concerned, or I referred to the anorexia nervosa, what the real point is going back and tracking, and this is where hypnosis is really great. It can go back and track to where you first made the association, because that's what it's all about. It's about associations of, when you felt that drinking alcohol really helped you to just let go, right, unwind and unravel. And when that is unleashed, and when you can start to create a new element of what you can do instead, and like I said, what is it that you're wanting to feel? You said you want to feel great and you don't want to feel stressed. What does that feel like?
It makes me, well, it's a great, not feeling stress is, feel great on the weekends.
Okay, so weekends is
because
great.
where you obviously like everybody needs, on the weekend it's great, or on a holiday, taking a holiday, because you just go unplug from the matrix, literally, this the rat race and everything, just take all that burden out of your shoulder.
But you see, these are the words that you're associating, right?
Yes.
So the rat race, burden, they're all key elements and clues to what would build that up. And then you said the weekends. So you then associate weekends with fun, freedom, and all those elements. What if you could turn it around so that your weekends become even better and the days of the week become like the weekends? So every day is the weekend.
Well, that would be a perfect world for everybody, wouldn't it? It would be a perfect world for you.
Well,
for
it would
you,
be for you anyway. Some people
for
might not
everybody.
like the weekend, I'll be honest. But, you know, for you, you've made that association.
Exactly.
So, you know, the fact is that while you're associating your work,
Mm.
I mean, where is it getting you? Even if a person hated their job,
That would
which
be a
I
great
know that
strategy.
you don't really hate it, there's parts about it that you love, like
Yep.
serving customers like myself, just saying. But, you know, it's not going to get you anywhere to feel burdened and to have that concept. So we call that a belief system.
Right.
So you've set up a belief system based upon your past experience. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Yes, that's, you got your finger right, pointing things, onto the.
I do it as well.
You're very knowledgeable when it comes to that. Yes.
And look, I have to tell you
on.
that I do exactly the same thing. Now, I might read this out because I have skipped a couple of your questions because of time factor. But this one, I don't know whether you can read it on the telly screen. Why do people stay stuck? We actually did already have that one. The one that I would like to bring up is this little one, which I feel is going to be give a really, really good answer as well. So it's about the subconscious, the daily behavior.
Oh, I love that question. Do
you want to read it out?
Yes. It's how much of our daily behavior is subconscious?
I bet you can answer this based on a lot of what I have spoken about, and I am going to respectfully answer it anyway, but I know that when I say it, you're going to know the answer. You're going to say, yes, that has to be true. How do you know, Max, that there is a floor underneath your bed every time you wake up in the morning and get out of bed?
That's a very tricky question. Can you repeat that again, please?
Okay,
my mind went blank.
I deliberately did that, and that's another thing
I was
too.
not
That's
familiar with the term. But
that's a pattern interruption from
how
way
do you
back.
know there's a floor under your bed?
So, in other words, let me reframe it.
Okay.
When you get out of bed every morning, you don't think to yourself, oh, I better check to see if there's a floor before I step out of bed.
Right. Okay.
You know there's a floor.
100%.
Is that right?
Yes, absolutely.
Now, when you get on the floor and you put one foot on the floor and then the next foot, do you ask yourself, which foot am I going to start walking with? Do you ask yourself that question? Absolutely.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
I never thought about that.
I mean, you don't even do it when you jump in a car, right? I mean, once upon a time when you learnt to drive, I remember my father taught me how to drive when I was 17 years old.
Yeah.
And I can remember, thinking to myself with a manual, oh, my goodness, you've got to put your foot on the clutch. Then you've got to move the gears.
Yep.
Then you've got to hold the steering wheel all at the same time. And, oh, my gosh, you've got to indicate and not to mention look out for other cars. But then all of a sudden you become a consciously competent driver.
Yep.
And you no longer even think about driving while you're driving. In fact, I don't know about you, but sometimes I can get to the destination without even remembering what gear I was in or what I did on the way there, because that becomes autopilot.
Right, okay.
So if I asked you the question now, so if that's the case, what I've said, you don't have to think about which foot you walk on. You don't have to wonder about whether there's a floor underneath.
No.
You don't have to think about your driving.
Yep.
You possibly don't even have to think about how you put your words together. How much of your daily behavior would that mean is subconscious if it's all in autopilot?
Basically all the time.
Everything.
Every
exactly.
time. Some people who are right-handed use the pen on the right hand or left-handed. everything becomes autopilot because it's the subconscious level, subconscious mind. I have a, that's a really good answer.
That is exactly true. The only things that are not subconscious are the things that we do not yet know.
Right.
So what you don't know. Some of the things you don't even know what you don't know. However, if you are consciously aware that you don't know something, you could become consciously competent.
Right.
And in order to become consciously competent, it means that you're not fluid. It means that you're not elegant. And when I say elegant, we use that terminology in NLP where it's smooth. You know, like watching a dancer glide across the floor, rather than seeing me get up and try to do a waltz or something and it'll be clunky and chunky because I'm trying to think about all the moves that I have to make, right? So the things that are not known to us are practically the only things that are not subconscious. Does that answer that question?
It does, yes. It makes a lot of sense. Whoa, dude, I didn't know that. This is crazy.
So your questions are actually so good. So good.
Wow.
Now let's have a look and see. I'm not sure whether this was your question or somebody else's. Let's just bring it up onto the screen. Yes, that's your question. So can changing the way,
Mm-hmm.
do you want to read it?
Yeah. Can changing the way we speak to ourselves really change our lives?
Okay, so I'm not saying I've got the answers for everything here because I don't.
Do you speak to yourself?
Do I speak to myself out loud?
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Malloy would probably say that I do.
Like when you're driving, and do you speak to yourself mentally inside? Do you have that little, Terry Messenger in the back here, or a little, in the cartoons you got a little devil in here,
a screeching monkey on your shoulder,
or you got a little angel on this side, or a little devil on this side. Maybe we should do this. Maybe no, don't do that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that you've got the good guy and bad guy in here. Have you seen that?
I think we could make a cartoon out of that. That would be a really good demo.
Have you ever had that before?
Look, everybody has that.
I get it all the
time. That voice in their head that's saying you're not good enough, or you can't do that. Or the one that I'm seeing a lot of at the moment is imposter syndrome.
Okay.
And it's happening to people around me who are very good at what they do. And there's certain things that they are being acknowledged for by their bosses or, their peers and other people. And then they suddenly go into this thing called imposter syndrome.
Right.
In other words, they think to themselves, and when you think about like some of the people I know it's actually happening to, I'm like, how could you even have that? But the best of us have imposter syndrome, where we do not think we're good enough, or we tell ourselves we are not in a position to achieve something, or I could never have that life or that wife or that money or that holiday. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So we all have it. That's the whole thing.
So what's it called again? Imposter syndrome?
Well, imposter syndrome is one element. And as I said, I don't have all the answers to these things. I mean, I can answer very fluently about neuro-linguistic programming and some of the ways that we can strategize to make a change.
Right.
So for imposter syndrome, for example, it's based on when a person doesn't really think they're good enough, or they might be in a position of where they're doing something and they feel like they're an imposter because they're normal, they're human beings. And behind the scenes, just like all of us and like you and me, they're suffering.
Yeah.
So they're going through their baggage. They're going through all of the stuff that's going on in their life. So they're saying, how on earth can I be that person? And even though I don't have all the answers here, Max, the one thing I will say about it is if a person does have that, you've got to ask yourself this question. What is it that you believe about that? So, what is it that you believe? So, if it is, I can't do something, like let's just say you want to do something, you want to achieve something great. Do you have something, by the way?
Well, in this case, I don't think about that. I think about what's stopping you from doing what's going to make you great.
Well,
What's stopping
exactly
you?
that. What's stopping you?
What is
What
stopping
is
you?
stopping you is your beliefs.
Mm.
So, okay, can you give me an example?
Well, when it comes to like a challenge, when it comes to, you know, let's say you have an opportunity to go into a massive corporate meeting that could change your life, or that you could sign a, you know, hundreds of thousands or $1 million contract, and you feel quite humble. You feel a bit it's setting you back, or not humble, but you realize, am I good enough for this?
Mm,
What's stopping you for doing what's going to make you great? So that
exactly
you have
that.
that inner fear of yourself, you have that, it creates some form of doubt.
Exactly that. Exactly what you've just nailed it.
I listen to um I've got a number of audio, or because I listen to Audible, and I listen to the personal development books. And to be honest, you know, I'm not trained as a businessman, but I've just learned so much from the Audible when it comes to the personal development. And it just says, just get into that rabbit hole and do your best, because what's stopping you for what's going to make you great? Just
Yeah.
go for it
Yeah,
and do
what
your
is stopping
best.
you? That is the best
A lot of
question.
people fear the level of failure, the fear of setback. Just don't stop.
And you know
Keep
what?
going.
It's not just the level. Believe me, I work with people just about every day. And that level of failure, believe it or not, you may not, and maybe you will when you hear it. But the other fear is there's a fear of failing.
Mm,
And oh my gosh, what if I fail? I'm not good enough. That's the imposter syndrome stepping in again. But guess what? There's one that's equally as, really crippling. And that is the fear of success. Some people fear success because they don't know whether they can live up to it. They don't know whether they're going to remain loved. They don't know whether people are going to attack them, reject them. A lot of people live in a victim mentality where they have had a payoff, because everything has a payoff, right? Like the drinking,
yeah.
the payoff is, well, it's going to make me unwind. The food, well, I deserve to eat this food. But what they don't realize is they might be eating themselves into obesity and diabetes,
Yeah.
or drinking themselves into kidney failure. And when it comes to that level of feeling like success is one of their biggest fears, quite often it can be based upon, but I have been operating so successfully with everybody feeling sorry for me.
Okay.
And it's a subconscious thing. So, does that make sense to
It
you?
does. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
It. You know, I've never experienced anyone, but you know, with your level of experience, that I'm sure you have come across with people who have the fear of success. Um, but no,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
that's a great
And,
topic.
and I think too, in all of us, there is probably a fear of success that even can be based on, if I become really massively successful,
Hmm.
is that going to be too hard for me to live up to? So, a person with a lot of integrity, for example, might start to think to themselves, well, if I hit this, am I going to be able to stay
I
there?
guess you start developing it if you have the right PR, which is your own personal representative. I guess you do need someone to help you out. Like, let's say, for example, if you become a very successful person, like let's say Elon Musk, or you know, great entrepreneur, the billionaire, the biggest billionaire ever, and then we got Lionel Messi, who is the greatest soccer player in the world. These people don't work by, they've got hypnotherapists, they have um, uh, personal trainers, they've got businessmen, they've got sponsorship, they've got management. All these other sources are helping these, you know,
They're investing in themselves. That's
to
what
help
they're
invent in
doing.
themselves, because this
Yeah.
little person is known all over worldwide. Um, and all these people who are looking after this individuals such as Leo Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo, all this, you see them in sponsorship, you see them in t-shirts and,
And they're
sports.
trained. And do you think they're going out there
Oh, no, they're
in
not.
those
No, they
t-shirts,
don't.
shrinking and feeling bad? When a lot of these people, and especially sports people, so some of the famous sports people, they will get trained by people like Anthony Robbins. And that is because Anthony Robbins is an absolute guru when it comes to states, because NLP, if you do a practitioner's training, the 101 thing that you have to be taught what to do and how to do it. And if it's the only thing you learn, you are winning. And that is how to change a person's state.
Right. Okay.
So if a person, for example, I know Anthony Robbins does a lot of work with famous athletes.
Oh, they do. He does. Yeah.
For myself, I did work with a famous horse racer, and he was always at the top of what he was doing. And when he came to me, he was at the bottom. But he came to me for depression, but he had that hunger that he wanted to win. And like that natural character of horsey people that, are on the horse and they're wanting to win, I asked him the question, because this is what everything comes down to. When you're on the horse now, what are you thinking? Compared to when you were on the horse and winning, how that was different. That was a different thinking. And he said, well, when I was on the horse last, I was thinking about the horse that fell down and crashed, and obviously they had to put him down, and that horse obviously lost that race. And I'm going, okay, so if you're repetitively thinking about the failure of that particular race, then that's where your brain is going. So the whole idea of NLP is to shift them so that they can move their mentality to that other side of think about the win. What was that like? What did it feel like? And you did a workshop with me, and we go into our feelings. You've got to have that mental feeling. So you talked about going into a meeting before.
Yep.
So if you go into a meeting, even if you don't know what you're going to be talking about, and there's a lot on the table,
Yep.
You've got to go in with posture, because body language is huge. You've got to go in with that posture, and you've got to go in with that success mindset of belief, even if you disbelief yourself. And the question you asked before is, can our language change that? I don't have the full answer for you, but this is what I will tell you from a NLP standpoint. And that is that your language will work only. So there is a condition, and the disclaimer is that you have to match the energy. There's no point saying to yourself, I am the best football player, but deep down inside, you're feeling like an absolute failure.
Right.
Because then there's an incongruency, and that's what hypnosis and NLP is all about. It's about bringing congruency together so that that person can release those feelings and negative emotions of feeling like the imposter, feeling like they're not good enough, and bringing it together with that language and learning how to step into it.
That was very good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Very,
I think we
good.
have time for one more question, and it's up on the screen there. And I don't even know whether I'll have time to finish the answer, but I'll give it my best shot.
Let's make it brief then. What's the most remarkable transformation you ever seen in a client?
Okay, so now that's a very objective question, because the way I'm sure that if I did answer you, I probably wouldn't be right. Okay. And the reason I say that is because I don't always get to know fully what exactly happens to that person and how their life changes. Wow. There are some radical changes that you will see, like the one that stands out is the one my late husband always talked about. And it was about the man who had been a heroin addict for most of his life, and since he was 14 years old. and he'd lost his kids to the Department of Child Protection, and he'd had to go to court. His sister recommended him to me, and I basically, the court said no, because I'm not medical. So they wanted him to have medical intervention. And he said, well, look, can you just give us a try? So long story short, after 40 years of being an addict on heroin, he got off it. Now, he did come into me on the second session and he said, what have you done to me? And I thought, well, I've done nothing. And he said, do you even understand the concept of, some of these drugs that I take, like speed, for example? Because when you take it, it makes you feel alive, wound up. You feel like you're, on fire. He said, I absolutely hated the experience. Long story short, and I was even on a call to the court to say he'd had 7 calls with me and sessions, and that man wiped out that 40-year habit. I'm not saying he's the biggest transformation, but that's the one that has been spoken about quite a lot, and that was a legal one as well. And he got his kids back.
Wow. That's awesome. That is really good.
So that was really good. But Max, I just want to say thank you for accepting this offer to come in on the show. And I'd also like to put out a call to action that if you feel that you would either like to jump on the show and perhaps, sit on the hot seat here with me, and I'm not that scary, or perhaps you'd like to do it virtually, why don't you give us a call, DM me, and we'll figure it out and we'll see if we can get your questions answered. And is there anything else, last words you'd love to say before we end the show?
No, well, I got to say thank you very much. It's been a great opportunity for me to be here, and thank you for your time. And if you are watching this or listening to this, you're pretty awesome. So I hope you learned something. I learned something. I love to learn every day. And thank you, Terry, for having me here. Thank you, Mr. Malloy.
Yes, big shout out to Aaron Malloy, and that's all, and that's over and out from Edge. Show where we have explored through this various topic, along with all the exciting new topics that we bring every week to enhance your personal mastery of excellence. Now, I'd love you to do me a favor. In fact, be part of the Legacy 1 million that I have in the vision for 2028. If you know someone who really would benefit from this recording, from this episode, please share it with them. And when you subscribe, you get notified every week of our episode as soon as it drops. So let's do that legacy thing. Let's share, let's care, let's enrich. And I look forward to bringing you another week of the most enriching content. So until next time, stay inspired, stay awesome, and keep on mastering your excellence.